Hi there, welcome to MTurk Guide. I've gotten some feedback from folks that, they feel things are a bit slow lately. Today we're at October. Well, actually, it's actually past midnight here on the East Coast. So we're getting close to the end of October, let's say. I'm not sure exactly what date it is, but and, as with anything, there are ebbs and flows of work with MTurk. Sometimes there's more work than you know what to do with, and other times there's, you're scraping by and doing whatever's up there. This is a good time to poke around and try to get your hands on some new qualifications that open up some doors for you. So I'm gonna feed you at least one that I have off the top of my head, and I'm gonna poke around for some other ones. I tend to take it for granted because these just show up in my list because I've done the qualification. So I had to sit back and remember that not everybody has this qualification, and therefore it would be something that I want to help people grab so that when it is up, you can fill in some of that time that you feel you've got hanging out. So, all right. So this hit off the bat will not show up in your list. Your hit's available to you because it's not available to you because you don't have the qualification. So the requester is ROC NLP Research, and the qualification that they're discussing that you must have it's called Storytelling 30. The number 30 is not less than 50. Okay, so what is that? So essentially, you've got to go take a test that you need to do 50 or better on. And in some cases, 50, it's either you get a 0, you get 50. I'm not exactly how they score it, but so that's going to be your goal. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to go into the qualifications tab. So let me just move this back and forth here. You're going to go to your qualifications tab. It's right next to your hits tab. Okay, you're going to go in and make sure you're in your qualification. You can type in whatever you want there, but this is what you're looking for. You're looking for storytelling. Storytelling 30. The qualification tab tends to run very slowly because there are a huge amount of qualifications out there. So try to be as specific as you can be. So in my case, I put ROC for the requester, and then I put story. And what I came up with was these 5 or so qualifications. So what you want to do is then double check that you've got the right one, right? And so we're looking for storytelling 30. So you'd go back to 30, and you're going to see that this is the qualification test for tell a short story hit, which is in fact correct. And this is your qualification test, and it's a 45-minute retake delay, which means if you take this and you don't get the 50 that you need, you have to wait 45 minutes before you try again. Okay, so when you're ready to do it, you're going to go ahead and click take the qualification test, and then from there it behaves just like a hit. It's not something you get paid for. It's not going to show up in your hits as completed, but there will be, there's an accept, there's a submit, and there's a timer. Be cognizant of all of that so that you don't if it expires on you, then you've got to wait that 45 minutes. So just be cognizant of all that like you would with any hit. So go ahead. I can't really give too much information after this because just like providing survey data or anything, it's not really ethical of me to provide anybody with any information about what lies beyond that qualification button. It's for everybody to kind of figure out on their own. And frankly, it could have changed since I've taken it. So I'm not going to guide anybody in the wrong direction. It's completely up to the requester to put whatever data they want in their qualification hits. So you're going to go ahead and take that qualification test, and again, retake it if you need to, but get that score. What I would recommend is before you even go to take the qualification test, go ahead and read through the hit and just get a sense for what they're trying to ask you to do. This particular requester is a little bit picky. They're asking for something very specific. And so I'm going to quickly run through it and just and just so that, we're all on the same page here as to what you're supposed to be doing in terms of the hit. That will also help you in the qualification. So they're asking you to imagine you want to tell a story to your friend, and it's going to be 5 sentences. Can be about something that happened to you or something that somebody else experienced in the past, or any life story about something or someone. And the task is to write this 5-sentence story. But that 5-sentence story has to have all 5 of these attributes, okay? Number 1, it needs to be realistic. No fairy tales, no sci-fi, no aliens, no unicorns, nothing that can't happen in real life, okay? It has to be plausible. It has to, you'd have to be able to say, yeah, that totally could happen. They give you some examples here, okay? And these are really nuanced examples, right? So, it's, you're not going to want to do anything that's too outlandish, but also just make sure that there aren't nuances there where it's like somebody would even debate whether it's possible for something to happen or not. So don't get yourself in that situation. Just make sure it's something that's very, very, very possible and plausible. The second attribute is that it needs to read like a coherent story. So it should have a beginning and an ending and something in the middle, okay? Things that aren't a story is, recipes or sort of like stream of consciousness is what I call it. Sometimes it's just like, I went to the store, there was a banana at the store, I saw a balloon at the store, my car had a flat tire, I'm very tired. That is not a story. That's 5 sentences that, are plausible, they could happen, but they're not part of a story. There's no beginning, there's no end. I could mix up the 5 sentences, put them in different order, and it would still, it still wouldn't change anything. Those 5 sentences would just be those 5 sentences. So you want to make sure it flows. All right. The next attribute is each sentence should be logically related to the next sentence. And that speaks back to the idea that you want the story to flow. So you want it to describe something new. It needs to add something. But again, it should not feel random or redundant. You don't want to be repetitive. Make sure that all of the players or the information is, it's there for a reason. It serves a purpose in the story. They give the example, don't mention that a character has a sibling if they don't play a role in the story. That's irrelevant, so make sure everything's relevant. Don't add anything unnecessary or extraneous. Just make sure that you're short and to the point. You really don't need a lot of fluff with these, which is great because you can really bang through them. The next one, next attribute, your story should be exactly 5 complete sentences. In each sentence is exactly 1 sentence. So don't try to get creative with using like ellipses or some sort of semicolons or whatever. They do provide some information about what a complete sentence is, but don't try to put together like a sentence and then a semicolon, however, comma, blah blah blah. You don't want to do that. Really, just keep it as simple as you can. If you don't really know what a complete sentence is, you need to brush up, and that's okay. And certainly you don't want to risk a rejection, especially on a hit that's worth, I think, 23 or 28 cents, whatever it is. We'll get there, but make sure that you're keeping everything succinct. Everything is a sentence. Everything is complete. It's all related. Makes sense, not extraneous information. They really are asking for it to be that simple. All right, and the 5th and final attribute is it should not have quotes. Don't write any sentences which is quoting something. So like, I told him to, go to the store, quote unquote. You don't want to do that. So, in the example below, it says his coach told him, quote unquote, you should take extra hour of exercises to catch up, end quote. So the right way to go about that would be his coach gave him extra hour of exercises to catch up. Again, it's descriptive, it's part of the story, there's no extra words, there's no fluff in there. It's to the point, relevant, and it's a complete sentence. Okay? So some other reminders there: do not write descriptions. A sequence of sentences such as steps of a recipe or places you've simply visited are not stories. It needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay. You want to make sure that each of your submission is a new story. So don't like start a story, do 5 sentences, and then add the ending in a different hit. They're not going to combine these hits in any way. Each one has to stand on its own 2 feet, if you will. So you don't want to be linking any of them. There are some examples. There's a link here with some examples of good submissions that have come from other workers. So, I say go in there, check it out. Let's see, it says, Jennifer has a big exam tomorrow. She got so stressed she pulled an all-nighter. She went into class the next day, weary as can be. Her teacher stated that the test is postponed for next week. Jennifer felt bittersweet about it. It's very, very simple, but you could see there's a sequence of events, and it makes sense. It's not fancy. There's no extra information. It's just it's exactly what they're asking for without any extra fluff, and it's very clear what it is. So they gave you a whole bunch of examples here. So again, as part of the qualification and then as part of doing these hits, at least take one look at what they're providing, and then just make sure you know what they're asking for in terms of specifically what they're asking for. So, I think that in my feeling, they are giving you an abundance of information. They've given you the instructions very clearly. They've given in-hit examples of good and bad, and they've highlighted exactly which were good examples, which were bad examples. And then on top of that, they also at the end with the link to the spreadsheet that you're seeing, they also have given you a whole bunch of examples for you to look through. I'm not thinking that you need to read that every single time, but the first few you do, keep that up in a separate tab, make sure you're looking at it. So, what you're going to do when you get in there is you're going to have a title, and please choose a title that best describes the story. Each sentence, one complete sentence, shorter than 70 characters, and no inappropriate stories. Nothing risque, no erotica. If you're going to want to write an erotic novel, save that for off work time, if you will. And so they are saying, double check to make sure your sentences do not have grammatical errors, spelling errors, or an informal language such as slang. So make sure again that it is formal. And then if there's input you want to give them input. Make sure you accept the hit before you start working on it, because once you go to accept it, if you've put stuff in there, it'll erase it. So make sure you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either, the character limitation may throw you off, so you don't want to, I wouldn't say work too much outside of the system. But if you have the ability to keep the characters down to 70 in a separate, Word or Notepad or something, you can do that, or type right into the system. But yeah, make sure you've accepted it. So, they've given you all the information you need. If you've got, creativity, or, these are things that you think you would be good at, give it a try. Do a couple. You don't have to do a ton of them, but you can do as many as stories you come up with. And the batch is fairly big. It's 3,314. Each one is 28 cents. So if you were able to come up with 5 stories, you would have just over $1. And I know for some folks that, just starting off, $1, would be a good addition to your day. It's not small potatoes by any means in terms of turking. I generally have had very good experience with this requester in terms of promptness and fairness. But they do have an auto approval of 10 days if for some reason they don't get to your hit before then. You can check them out on Turk-Opticon. They've been around for a while, and they do a bunch of different hits. So if you do find yourself reading their reviews, make sure that you're reading the review in relation to the hits. So they had a bunch where people would video or record themselves giving speeches and things like that. So those were different. So just want you to be aware that they've done a bunch of different hits over time. So, but definitely take a look at TO. As I said, I've never had any issues with this requester, but I enjoy writing, and this type of stuff kind of interests me. So it doesn't seem as much work for me. So if this is not up your alley, give it a try. Not totally up to you, but I think that the instructions are there. It's pretty self-explanatory. In terms of what they're looking for. I don't think there's any nuances there, and I don't think there's anything that's kind of unspoken. It's all there for you. So, but if you have any questions, or, even if you want me to take a look at one you pull together, you can message on YouTube without showing everybody your work. There's a messaging option. You're more than welcome to message me, and I will take a look and let you know if, I think it's okay to submit. I mean, I'm not the end all be all, but I'd certainly be willing to provide that help for you. But again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be here to answer them as quickly as possible. Please comment, make sure you're subscribed. My hope is to really get some more videos out as soon as possible. I have a bunch of ideas, and so hopefully I can do a few more tonight if my voice will hold out for me. But as always, I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate hearing from everybody, and I will be talking to you soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great turking day.